Today, we are diving into a really strange medical mystery. It's a story that starts not with some obvious enemy, but with a silent invasion, one that turns the human body against itself in a truly horrifying way. And it all kicks off with this chilling question. Think about it. A smile that has nothing to do with joy, but is actually a mask of pure agony, a fixed, rigid grin that you can't control. What in the world could do that? Well, let's find out. The signs are just shocking. It often starts with your jaw feeling stiff, making it hard to open your mouth. You've probably heard of it as lockjaw. But from there, it gets so much worse. We're talking about agonizing, full-body muscle spasms that are so violent they can literally break your bones. And then there's that face, that grimace, the sardonic smile frozen on the victim's face, while all their muscles are just locked in this constant, rigid state. So, what is this awful condition?
All right, it's time to put a name to the horror.
The culprit is tetanus. Now, it's an infectious disease, but here's the really weird part. You can't catch it from someone. It's not contagious like the flu. The real danger comes from a super powerful neurotoxin that basically declares war on your nervous system. Okay, so if you can't catch it from another person, where does this toxin even come from? Well, the answer is kind of everywhere. It's hidden all around us, in plain sight. So let's meet the villain of our story. Meet Clostridium tetani. And the craziest thing about this bacterium is just how common it is. It's in the soil, in dust, in animal manure, pretty much everywhere. It protects itself inside these incredibly tough little shells called spores that can survive for years. But here's the key. It absolutely hates oxygen. So when it finds a nice spot with no oxygen, it wakes up and starts pumping out one of the deadliest poisons known to science, tetanospasmin. So how does this enemy actually get inside of us? It can be through something as simple as stepping on a rusty nail, getting a deep cut, a bad scrape, or even a splinter. Any little break in the skin can be a doorway for these spores, bringing them into the perfect low-oxygen home of a wound, where they can start their deadly work. This brings us to the real mystery. How does a tiny little bacterium in a cut cause your entire body to seize up like that? Well, the way it works is it's devious. Just think of it like someone getting into your body's control system and cutting the brakes. So here's how the whole invasion goes down. First, the spores get into a wound and they start to grow. As the bacteria multiply, they release that tetanospasmin toxin. And this toxin is smart. It finds its way into the nerves near the wound. From there, it actually travels backward, all the way up the nerve fibers until it reaches the spinal cord. And once it's in that command center, it does one catastrophic thing. It blocks the off switch for your muscles. And this right here perfectly explains the problem. See, normally your nerves are sending two kinds of signals, contract and relax. It's a perfectly balanced system. You've got a gas pedal and you've got a brake. But the tetanus toxin gets in there and just snips the brake lines. It stops the signals that tell your muscles to relax. So suddenly, your muscles are only getting one message, contract, over and over and over, with absolutely no way to stop. Now, this whole process isn't instant. After the spores get in, there's this incubation period that can be anywhere from 3 to 21 days, though the average is about a week. And here's a super important clue for doctors. The shorter the time between the injury and that first symptom, the more severe the disease is probably going to be. Once those symptoms start, it is an absolute race against the clock. It becomes this high-stakes medical emergency, where you're just trying to support the patient's body while it's being attacked from the inside. And the stakes really couldn't be any higher. Even with all our modern intensive care, the mortality rate for tetanus is somewhere between 10 and 70%. And what's wild is that there's no lab test to confirm it. Doctors have to make the call based on the symptoms alone, that lockjaw, the spasms, that terrifying smile. Often, what proves fatal is respiratory failure, because the muscles you need to breathe just lock up. The complications are just brutal. Spasms can break your bones, people can choke on their own saliva, and the constant stress on the body can lead to a heart attack. It's a full-on systemic assault. Treating tetanus is like waging a war on multiple fronts at the same time. Doctors have to surgically clean out the wound to get rid of the bacteria making the toxin. They give an antitoxin to try and neutralize the poison that's already in the system. They use antibiotics to kill any remaining bacteria, and they have to put the patient under heavy sedation with muscle relaxants just to control those awful spasms, which almost always means a long stay in the ICU on a ventilator.
Okay, so after seeing all of that, the terrifying symptoms, the devastating complications, the incredibly difficult and intense treatment, we finally come to the last and honestly the most important part of our story.
All of that suffering, all of that complex, round-the-clock medical intervention, it can all be prevented. And the solution, when you compare it to the disease, is just breathtakingly simple. The tetanus vaccine is truly a triumph of modern medicine. It doesn't actually use the bacteria. It uses a harmless version of the toxin called a toxoid. And what this does is it teaches your immune system exactly how to make the antibodies needed to fight off the real thing. It gives you this active, powerful protection. But here is one of the most bizarre twists in all of medicine. Actually getting tetanus and surviving it does not make you immune. The amount of toxin it takes to nearly kill you is, believe it or not, too small to trigger a lasting immune response. Only the vaccine can truly protect you.
And that leaves us with this one last sobering thought. The enemy, Clostridium tetani, is still out there. It's in the dirt, just waiting. Tetanus is a preventable disease, but it's not an eradicated one. The only thing standing between a simple cut and this horrifying ordeal is our immune system. So the real question is your shield up to date?